Yeah, I don't know where they all went though. We passed them out and I had more.
You can have mine.
Okay.
We could
You memorize the
Where's
resume?
my-
I didn't
Yeah,
pass
we
them
can
along.
share.
Okay. The good thing is you don't get to see my gigantic head while we're doing this. All right, call to order. Again, my apologies at 7:12. Members present. All of our selectmen are here. I'd like to get the names and groups you're representing of the other people who are here. I do see that online we have Lynn Byberg. Lynn is our assessor. We also have Sharon LaPlante. And Sharon, you're just here as an interested bystander, or are you part of one of these groups?
I'm a member of the Ashford Historical Society.
Oh, very good. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
Pont. And we have in our group out here, you want to call out your names and your affiliation?
Chris Salazzo, Ashford Historical Society.
Nice to see you again,
And
Chris.
seeing you too. Jen Ricci, the Historical Society.
Jen Ricci, Historical Society.
Joe Hendrick, the Invasive Plants Working Group.
Yes, Joe. Anybody else? Just
Val,
guess.
Val Pepin,
Bill Pepin. And which group are you with tonight?
the Historical Society.
Because you're everywhere.
Yeah.
Yes, I am.
And Michael Pepin, Historical Society.
I'm sorry, say your name.
Michael Pepin.
Have I met you before? I think I
Yeah,
did.
I've been here.
Michael Pepin. Thank you. First of all, thank you all for what you've been doing and for being here. Okay. First selectmen's briefing. I printed this off. Selectmen. We'll go through it quickly because we have so much other stuff to do. Extra copies, you won't care. Okay, first thing is our Knowlton Hall gutters. The gutter company that did the original patching that we contracted with have come out and patched the gutters. Again, they're monitoring them closely for leaks. They said that they will do whatever it is to make us whole. So we're sticking with them at this point instead of going to trying to replace all the gutters.
Can you add comments to that or no?
Excuse me?
Can you add comments to that or no?
Do you have questions?
I think it's not just patching that's important. They need to change the pitch of the gutter.
Understood.
Totally, yeah.
Yeah, that is one of the things that's come up. So we're gonna see what happens with what they've done. And then we'll go to a more extreme and expensive solution. Town office building, the outside pole lights, the lighting manufacturer has been identified. Thank you, Chris. And the information will be provided to the electrician to see if we can go with a fixing what we have versus buying new.
Catherine, are we getting anywhere on at least getting the ones that are out there now working or?
Yeah, you mean the one that works? It's actually one that does
Okay.
work. That, again, we're giving him the information and then he should be able to do what he can. So, 2022 steep grant, hurrah, hurrah. Thank you, Chris. The money arrived today. So the state reimbursement of $479,922.06 has been deposited.
6 cents.
And 6 cents. It's really, yeah, these 6 cents. Shared animal control services discussions are continuing with the municipal leaders in Ashford, Willington, Stafford, Tolland and Mansfield, and a CROG, I'm spelling CROG wrong, but CROG representative about funding, building, and sharing a new animal facility that will meet the state's January 1st, it's 2028 requirement, right? Or is it,
Nine.
oh, 2029?
Yep.
I knew I got that wrong. Requirements. Options being explored by this group include using steep monies to expand and share the Wellington facility or build and share a new facility in Tolland. Ashford is also independently assessing potential costs for expanding or rebuilding the town's animal facility located at the transfer station to meet the new requirements. Chris has started some investigation on that. Cattle Rock. A meeting has been scheduled for Tuesday, December 17th with Wellington First Selectman Peter Tanaka to review the history and status of the Ashford and Wellington Cattle Rock properties. Just to elaborate a little bit, that's aside from the fact that he needs to, as a relatively new selectman, understand what this is, and we share that we share this big expanse in town. We know that the state is they're pressuring us for more information about what we want to do with the properties. And of course, we want to get a remediation grant. And in order to do that, we have to do that in partnership with Wellington. So what we're doing is we're going to bring Peter up to snuff on what this is all about, since he's new to it. And we have a counsel that's been working with us for many years, who is also, she's been talking to the state, and there's pressure coming from the state to tell them what we're going to do. Chris, did you have anything to add to that?
She's also getting a lot of pressure from EPA, because EPA has a $4 million something lien for the cleanup on the property. So
Let's make sure they can hear over here too.
they're pushing us to negotiate.
Because we have liens and other things on the property.
What is the approximate remediation? Around $500,000?
Litigation
No,
or lien?
Remediation costs, the grant.
The remaining
Yeah.
was around
We
200,000 last time.
We don't
Put in
know.
for 300, then we put in for 5, got turned down for both of them. And what we're looking at, I think we talked about this once before, is applying for a different kind of grant. It's called a bar grant. And it is to study. Basically, it's a planning grant and a remediation grant. We already have a remediation.
Identification that we did for 200,000.
Right, it's already been filed with DECD. We have a remediation plan all ready to go. But we need a plan before they will give us money, because at this point, the state's only giving money or wants to give money to shovel-ready projects. And we have nothing shovel-ready. So we
So,
have to,
so it's a plan for the property.
You might remember, Roger, we had the impression that Yale was going to assist us with identifying wetlands.
Yeah. Yep.
Laying out exactly what we could do with what areas of the property, and that was drawn by Yale. So I think the overall plan is to try to identify wetlands, ledge, exactly identify what we can do.
So that's part of the
potentials
planning, but not part of the remediation.
Right, the mediation was a minimum amount compared to what EPA did originally, primarily in the Wellington section.
Okay.
Wellington only has a very small portion of it, roughly 350 acres.
they have 41 acres in 2 lots.
We have 9 lots and the rest of it.
And,
Over 300 acres.
you know, there are separate liens. DEP put a lien on the entire property. So the lien that's filed here and also filed in Wellington is on both Ashford and Wellington. DEP also filed a separate order on Wellington for the wire burning. So that's another outstanding order it's gotta be remediated.
Can those of you who are online hear us, okay?
Yes, I can.
Sharon, you too? Or a thumbs up? is
Yes,
good. Very good, thanks. Okay, so that's what's going on with Catalog right now. Town EV charging station research. I met with Titan Energy, which is retained by the Connecticut Council of Municipalities, affectionately called CCM, to review incentives and options for installing an electrical vehicle charging station at the town office building or Knowlton Memorial Hall. $20,000 in state incentives are available to a municipality. However, the requirement is that 2 charging stations, also called plugs, must be installed to qualify. The plugs must also be installed next to handicap parking spots. Costs vary based on charging speed levels. And they can vary quite a bit based on that. And I'm not going to go into the detail on that yet. I'll do a write-up that tells everybody about what those are. And those of you with electric vehicles or are interested are always welcome to come and talk with me about it. Also discussed was the EV charging station at the Midway Restaurant, which is 3 minutes from the town office building, and charging stations being planned for the Willington truck stop on Ruby Road next to Route 84. The best location for town-owned charging stations would be where town offices handicap parking is located, and the power source would need to be Knowlton Memorial Hall's basement electrical system. Another meeting is planned to fully assess electrical capabilities in Knowlton, trenching and building infrastructure changes needed to hook up the plugs, along with details about the charging speed level recommended. I will tell you that in talking with this representative, who was very good, she was agnostic to a number of things. She did not necessarily think it was a great idea for us to put one in there, not when there's one down the road. I haven't talked with the owner of Midway yet, but I want to find out what the charging speed is on that one. I don't have an electric vehicle, so. And
I can
typically where
speak
you
to
want to
that.
put them are places where there's a restaurant or something to do, like a shopping center, which is why you see a number of them in shopping centers. Not someplace where, you know, you're pulling up to the town offices. Most people aren't here all that long. And typically it's travelers, not necessarily the people in, this is what I was told, not necessarily the people in town who own electric vehicles that are going to be charging them there. It's going to be people passing through. So you're in a sense building onto the infrastructure that the state hasn't done. Okay, to provide that.
Yeah, if I could, I am a EV owner. And I would endorse everything you just said. The idea that they put them in at Midway is great. It brings business to Midway.
They need to put a sign out there saying there's one there.
They-
That's
they-
even better.
Yeah, well,
It didn't show up.
the internet will find them. They all, anybody who has it.
So the
they-
person who came,
Has a vehicle,
So-
has an app.
right, and the person who came to talk with me, the representative from Titan, who was pretty well seasoned, she showed me the apps on her phone, and the one from Midway didn't show up yet.
Oh, okay.
So that's what I want to kind of double check on as well. But it doesn't, in my mind, you know, personally, it doesn't make sense to put one 3 minutes from another one.
Who
Um,
sells the electricity?
There's an app, and you basically are, the location hooks it up. When all is said and done, the electricity is done through a program, so to speak, if I understand correctly. And there's another meeting planned for this, for me to go through all the details on that. But it's basically, it's like a charge card, if you will. And
There's
you've got a
half
vehicle.
dozen vendors that have networks.
Yes,
And you end up signing up with one of the networks. So the town would sign up, and they would operate.
So we just supply the pad and the hookup.
That's how.
there's a bit
that's how
more
I
to it than
understand
that, because you'll also have some other things, but
Right.
what I do want to mention is those I'm gonna call them utilities, that you would sign up with? A particular utility?
EV
Company.
charging networks.
So we've got, let's see. Charging networks, and there's many of them apparently. And whatever you've got for a card needs to work with maybe a number of them. Whatever you put in here, for example, if we had ChargePoint has an app that tells you, it'll tell you, it has agreements with the other charging companies. Okay, where something, so when you go out there and you're looking for places to charge your EV, you know, you can see them and which ones will work. The other one, there's Flow, and there's something called Plug Share. And that one, while it'll show all of them, doesn't tell you which ones you can actually use for your particular vehicle that you know, work with.
I have a question.
Yes.
Joe, you said you have one.
Yes.
What's the average cost when you're doing a recharging?
So I do most of my charging at the house, which I think I'm typical in that regard. But while traveling, and again, you know, I probably wouldn't be coming here to do it as a resident. While charging, you know, generally I top it up. The vast majority of chargers, if you don't have a Tesla, that's all. They have their own network. Are what they call level 2, and that takes a few hours. So typically what I'm doing is putting enough in to get home, and it'd be between $6 and $15.
Is there like a minimum charge or?
Some of them have once you start it charge, but mostly it's per kilowatt hour. It's just like buying gas.
It's
So-
metered?
So what I did,
Charge that app you use or?
I use Plug Share,
function?
and then I have one that is Chevy, comes with the car.
so if I understand correctly from the person I talked with, the agent, she said that level 1 is all cars have this. You can plug it into the wall at your house, and that's charges 1 mile per hour. So for an hour's worth of charging, it gives you 1 mile of mileage.
And mine
And-
does a little better than that, but
Okay, but
it's
that's
like
kind of where she,
4.
and then level 2, with a 40 amp, is 30 to 45 miles per hour of charge. And a level 2 that is 80 amps, which is a 35% higher cost. I think it says it needs 12208 voltage. I may have that number wrong. 80 amps, and that's 50 to 75 miles of charge per hour's charge. And then there's level 3, which is supercharged, and it's highly expensive. It requires a 480 volt power transformer, a new service, utility owned transformer box, and that charges, usually that costs about 30 to 50,000 plus heavy install costs. And that puts you at 125 miles per hour of charge. So I know I just rattled off a lot of numbers, but it at least gave an idea of the level you'd want. We'd want level 2 if we were going to put it in. And, you know, it becomes, is it level 2 at 40 amp or is it level 2 at 80 amp? You have level 2 at your place, Joe?
Yeah.
And what ampage is it or whatever?
I think it's 30 amps.
30?
I think.
Yeah,
that's what
they
mine-
said 40 is the standard. And then this other one is fairly new. And let's see. Okay, so
Stupid question.
none of them were in this arena. I'm just feeling good because Joe said he agreed with what I said. Because I know he has a vehicle.
If the rumor we heard is true that school bus fleets
Yes, our
have to be
city.
electric by whenever, what do you have to put in it? Will they take? I would assume you're not gonna do 1 mile an hour.
No,
Alright.
and to be realistic, it's probably not anything we need to consider right now because it's so far off. If you don't have the state infrastructure in place, you know, we have hills, we've got cold, we've got things that really retard the efficiency of these. And so, you know, there's more work. Definitely the state needs to be doing something. It's nice that they're doing this with 20,000. This could cost more than 20,000. Okay, and also in terms of maintenance, there's a 1-year warranty, parts and labor, and then there's parts are covered after that, but we have to pay for the labor. You can get a maintenance plan, but if the company, and this is what's happening with some of these companies, these smaller companies that are providing these services, they're going under and they're getting absorbed by bigger companies. It's the way of the world these days. And so key players may merge and buy out smaller players. And when you're part of a smaller player group and you only are able to charge based upon the group you're working with, that could create some additional issues. Again, I don't know all the details on that. I was taking in the information as best I could. Also, there's software and hardware. There's a monthly fee of $15 to $30 per plug, billed annually. In this particular situation, with the monies that could be available, it starts 1 year after the install. If it's a municipality, that first year we're already covered. There's some hardware and software options, not worth getting into. I asked about the user experience, and that's how I got shown what apps were on the phone. So, you know, what is it like when you have one of those cars and you're trying to find a power source? You know, how do you do that? And, you know, how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking right now, Mansfield has 15 level 2s, no level 3s.
No, nobody's gonna go
Level
level 3.
3s are very, very.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Tesla
you-
put up their whole network of them. The New York State Thruway has them at every rest stop.
Mhm.
But
Wow.
yeah,
Well, you know what? If you're, I come from
that's because
I
they-
come from up
that's
there.
because they have toll roads.
Well, no, it's more than that. They also, well, if they're really trying to have an infrastructure of some kind by doing that, it's cold there. And it's definitely very cold there.
Yeah.
And so that's going to affect the efficiency of the cars,
That's
the
Are
vehicles.
they only for Tesla brand? or
no,
any brand?
no, no.
Oh, no, there's
It's
others.
just like it was the best trip I ever took. I had something I was going to comment on. Is the money from the state strictly for municipalities?
To my knowledge, yes.
I mean, because the logical thing here is that, you know, like what Midway did. You know, I
Yeah,
have stopped.
you mean the
I've
businesses
gone
putting them in.
and stopped and eaten at a restaurant specifically because they had a charger and I needed power.
So imagine you're passing through here and you want to use a charger that's set up here. What are you gonna do? Hang out at Cumbies and have an egg salad sandwich? So, and I doubt that they would be coming into our library if they're on a trip, unless, you know, they want to come into the Ashford Library. But, so in terms of people passing through, yeah, you put them where people are going to stay a while. If you've got a shopping center or you've got a restaurant, that's a pretty good deal.
We've got a town meeting Thursday, and this is one of the subjects that's on the agenda for public hearings, so
Yes.
if you guys want to talk about this more, we can go over it
Yep.
Thursday.
Yep.
7 o'clock.
Yeah, well,
Actually, the intent is we're taking it off of the list. Because there's more to, it's bigger than a bread box. And what we had allocated was 20,000 alone.
you know, I'll be happy to speak to my experience.
Yep. Okay, so that's all I have in terms of the selectmen's update. Selectmen, did you have anything else that you wanted to ask me about that might have cropped up?
No, not at the moment.
All right. Thank you. Moving along. The next thing is acceptance of the minutes of the regular meeting of, actually, the date is
No, it's December 2nd.
December 2nd. Have you had the opportunity to review them, gentlemen?
I did.
I did.
I'll move acceptance of the minutes as presented.
I'll second.
Okay. that's done. Any adjustments? Guess not.
Now, Chris, on the agenda that was posted, we had the wrong date. Is that, because I'm
The
looking at it.
18th isn't it?
She was a little ahead of her time.
Got it.
She's waiting for 2024 to be over. Okay, so, all in favor?
I,
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. And also the special meeting of December 9th, 2024. Have you had the opportunity to
Move to
review
accept.
those?
I'll second that.
Okay, so also. No adjustments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, here from boards, commissions, committees. I don't think we have anything from any of our boards or committees tonight. Old business, Ashford School replacement project status. We are working on, with the school, on getting the, bear with me, financials submitted to the state. I have something that I want our architect to clean up before he
Is
provides
that
final
the justification on the change order?
change order one in particular. He's not done an adequate description. It was at the point in time where it came up, it was unavoidable. We could not have moved forward without it. However, the rationale that he documented was not accurate, and it was reviewed by Cindy, our school superintendent, and Jim Rupert, who were there when he took us through everything.
I remember it well.
Okay,
Catherine, can I make a suggestion, since we've got these folks?
can we move them up?
Why don't we move them up on the agenda? You're certainly welcome to stay, but just in case you have other plans, I will suggest that we move first to item. I'm assuming we're talking, you folks in the historical here about the academy.
Item E and
To
item F.
under new business, item F, Ashford Academy usage and maintenance.
And item E, preservation for the.
Can I have a motion to that effect?
Certainly,
Who's making it?
Roger.
So moving these two items up on the
I
agenda.
stole your motion. I second that motion.
And a bill, you have second to
I guess so.
that? It's nothing but but fun here.
Freaking Phillips.
Okay, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Moving on to Ashford Academy usage and maintenance.
Okay.
So I think you have a handout.
I believe everybody should have it. Is there anyone who doesn't have it? It's kind of an outline.
I think
Before-
I think I don't. If you'll just
Yeah,
give me
extras on
one
the
for a
table.
second.
Sorry, Chris.
I'll take a quick
Thank
copy.
you. There you go. The Ashford Historical Society currently has no home. The Ashford Academy, which is on the National Register, is currently not in use, but remains intact and in good condition. The town of Ashford, several years ago, delegated to the society the primary care of the academy. We, the Historical Society, would like to reopen the academy, utilizing it for possible storage space. It's unrestricted, educating the public while advocating for the preservation of our significant town land. Understanding one's local heritage lends to the understanding the present and supports community welfare and gives one a sense of place. Due to many years of vacancy, and I'm guesstimating maybe 10, there is some structural deterioration of the building. We have consulted experts with the Preservation Connecticut, the AIA Architects, and Cirrus Engineering to determine the feasibility of our plan. Some repairs would be necessary and should be completed regardless of any use of the Historical Society. If these structural issues are not addressed, any future repairs would be more significant, thus more costly. We would like to work with you, the town, to reopen our town landmark to our community, ideally in conjunction with America's 250th celebration. And just remember, habitating a space enables it to monitor it better. Now with that, I will tell you, we've done a bunch of things. We went in just to find out what we had in store. We have collections all over the town of Ashford. And we're trying to figure out a way to incorporate it all into one roof. So we thought maybe the academy might be one of those places. So we went in, we cleaned it up, we kind of looked to see what we have. And right away, some things were staring us in the face. There is no fire detection in this building.
There is no what?
Fire detection.
Oh,
None. There used to be, there isn't anymore. There is no security in this building. The electrical and the plumbing is antiquated. Internet and is just kind of a no-brainer if you're in the computer age. So we had, first of all, we had Preservation Connecticut come out, a woman named Stacy Vario. And she was just to tell us if this was even a feasible thing. So what she does is she goes to buildings to tell you if it's a feasible sort of a thing. And she told us we had a gem. We have a gem. Despite the fact that nobody's been in this building for several years, it's still in quite good condition. She then told us to contact a Robert Hurd, who's an architect, and he came in, also pro bono, and he told us what we needed to do to define ourselves in order to get grants. And then he also gave a good word to the final person, who was a structural engineer, and she also came pro bono. And she went through the entire building. She did tell us what the necessary repairs would be, and I've listed them on the handout that we have. There are some things, like if you go into the academy and you go into the main level, there is loose floorboards right in the center of the classroom space. There is a cornice in the back left corner that needs to replace. I think the big thing is she did go in the attic, and there's something called a king beam. And king beam is up in the bell tower, and it is no longer touching the floor of the attic. So you would have to go in and repair that. However, and I believe it was probably whoever did the ceiling in the Ashford Academy, they took all of whatever they could, put it in the attic, so the attic is full of stuff. So in order to repair this king beam, we would have to also try and de-stuffify. And the hole to de-stuffify is much smaller now than some of the stuff that's in the attic. So you'd have to like toss it out the window or something. A couple other things, if we have a joist failure towards the front of it, I mentioned this, the floorboard in the center. And also there was a giant boardroom table, which it was our understanding, it used to be part of town hall and they brought it there. I mean, at the time, I'm sure it was gorgeous, but it was heavy and it's big. And it started to create a sagging of the floor. So these are all things that are fixable. But they have to be done sooner than later in order for us to even occupy the space. And we can go in there safely and clean, which we did do. We cleaned bathrooms, we swept everything, we kind of moved stuff away from where there was weaknesses in the floor. I mean, we can talk about, I didn't go in the basement, but Mike could talk about the basement. I didn't go in the attic too, I don't do those things. But we can talk about that. I can tell you that inside the academy, there are school desks, which I believe are original. I believe there is a lot of historical society stuff, a lot of it's paper, but we did find, we found a gravestone, we found an old map, we found a flag, we found a lot of stuff which we can attribute to what we think was the academy. Oh,
Are
we
the
found,
old post office boxes still in there?
no, but we found the teacher's desk with all the signatures of all the teachers that were there. That's on the second floor. So I think it would be a really cool thing for our community, not only just to have school groups come in, to have Boy Scout troops come in, to have outsiders come in during Walktoberfest, but it's also, and I'm not from Ashford, it is the symbol of Ashford. So to let it go would just be so sad. It doesn't have heat, and we fully understand that we're not asking for heat, HVAC. We fully understand that that's something down the road, but we can use it seasonal, in the months that it's not too hot, not too cold. And we can do these things and supply this and provide this as a community thing. So we are asking that you guys consider it and then we work together with you. We are trying to apply for grants. The grants are very limiting. And I will tell you, I'm trying to apply for grants. I've taken classes and I'm going against the Mark Twain libraries. I'm going against the Amistad, and we are just not them. So we have to do this kind of, bits and pieces. There is one grant that I didn't apply for that will help us with just fire detection and security, which I will go for. Again, there's still competition. Most of these grants have a matching, and we do have a little bit of money saved away in a CD so that if we do win a grant, we have the money to match it. But the bigger things, we just can't do. We're very small. I'm sure everyone has heard that we've reorganized quite a bit in recent months. So we are setting out as a new society with new members. We're having a new philosophy, a new focus, and we really want to work with the town. And we really want to do this for the town because we have a love of history. And we go in there and we're like, oh my God, look at this. Oh my God, did you see that? So what better than to be able to show our passion to the town and show off what you guys have.
Thank you for doing this.
You're welcome.
I've done several personal, oh my God, tours of myself.
It's great.
in that building. Yeah, it is great. It's an adventure. And I don't know if you've had a chance to talk to Ann Sapina, our former treasurer here years back. She actually went to school, utilized the outhouses. She has firsthand knowledge of the
I
building.
talked to Nord, he got married there.
Yeah.
He got
Unbelievable,
married
yeah.
there.
We're also very familiar with Bob Hurd. Historically, Society has contracted with Bob before,
Yeah,
and we've got experience with him. Couple of things on your list that concern me, and you did mention a structural engineer.
yeah, so Stacy did, I'm sorry. I'm missing
Liz.
Beth.
Elizabeth?
I have not gotten her report yet. She came in.
And she did a report.
Well, she's going to supply us a report,
Okay.
but she did it pro bono, so I'm not going to push her to get the
Yeah,
report.
understood.
But
I mean, one of my concerns when I hear about structural beams and that
Yeah,
is just how safe the building is for anybody even to be in it at this
oh, she
stage.
told us it was safe to be in.
Okay,
Yeah,
During the last reconstruction, they did a lot of work.
yeah,
And really, there's only a couple issues now that may have been missed then or whatever, or the table making the floor sag.
yeah,
But they did the outer perimeter. Most of the beams were sistered and then really repaired well. There's just a couple of spots that need work.
okay.
But it's very good. She thought it was very good.
yeah.
Well, I know the last time I was in there, we closed the going upstairs to the upper area with the narrow. Cause
Yeah.
we didn't frankly want people going up and down there anyway, until we had a chance to check the railings and everything in there, but it is a gold mine of history for the town. And
It's fantastic.
I understand that our dual seater outhouse made national acclaim at one time.
Made the cover of
Yeah.
Preservation Connecticut.
I'd like to say that Chris Abacoff did that issue.
Actually,
Okay?
that was your father.
It was-
Well,
And,
Yeah.
and now I have outhouse calendars every year in my house. I also, grew up with an outhouse, different places. One of the best experiences I ever had at the academy was going during a Walktoberfest, okay, years ago. And meeting a man who went to school there, and he told us that he was the one that would start the fire in the pot-bellied stove. And he said the teacher had a buggy whip and she'd snap it at you, and it might just be behind that blackboard. Okay, because I think the students put it there. That's what I heard. Anyway, it was so great to have him talk about going to that school. The dentist would come once a year and it'd be a day of wailing and crying, believe me. I'm so sorry that we didn't record him.
Yeah.
So if Ann Sapina can take, if you can get to Ann Sapina and have her talk with you about what her experience was there. It would
I'm
be
not so sure
gold.
that Sherry Much hasn't interviewed her during the 300th, and I think we went over that. And I believe those tapes are at the library.
That would be
I don't know
wonderful.
if she had one from Anne. I
Okay.
did talk to Anne though, and we're gonna set it up for January.
Oh, great.
She said after the
Great.
holiday.
Excellent,
Good.
Yep.
excellent.
Good.
So, but it is a marvelous building. It's built like the old barns were built,
Oh,
just
it's great.
solid.
And the building is covered under insurance.
That was, so this was some of the stuff I was wondering. So I'm not sure, and me not being the board of the past, who maybe would have had more knowledge. What part, I know the town is responsible for the exterior, maintenance of the lawn. Obviously, it's been painted. I don't think the Historical Society painted the outside.
We
No,
we
it's
paid
not.
for the, we paid for,
Okay, so, and the inside, what is the town responsible for?
well, that's been a gray area.
Right, so that's why we're
For a
here.
long time, particularly with the Historical Society. And I know I had requested an inventory because there were things that were the towns and things that were, and there was nothing was marked or anything.
Mm,
That constituted one of the reasons I went up there and did a personal inspection at one time. So those are gray areas. There was a time when the Historical Society kind of threw their hands up
Mhm.
and said, we don't want any responsibilities with the academy.
Mhm.
So we've been going sort of on a maintenance, the south exterior wall needs painting. We've been doing it piecemeal. I think it's to all of our favor to do kind of a comprehensive look, interior, exterior. I mean, I would certainly recommend structurally first. And then we start comparing notes. Another thing that you might consider, we'll be going into our capital improvement negotiations to develop some long-term planning and short-term planning expenditures for the town. That might be something that nothing's guaranteed,
right,
but that you put together sort of a budget for what you have in mind and
And
bring
with,
that to the committee.
and when you do bring something like that to the committee, you need to get multiple estimates. But you need to have something that's laid out that actually has some fairly realistic estimates.
for the cost for the repairs.
Try to
So
get
the
out
cost
some
for the
estimates.
repair.
Purchasing being
And what I
very
would
joint.
suggest is that you prioritize them, you present them in a prioritized fashion. I have a couple questions.
Sure.
And I have a question too.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Go ahead.
Okay, have you considered looking at tourism grants as well?
I saw that. You had sent me that email. However, I don't think we can market the academy until we have the ability to present to the academy.
Unless there's something that says something to encourage tourism. You might consider that. It might not be advertising, it might be fixing something as part of a tourist attraction, if you will.
I did see that grant.
Okay,
You might
The
want
other
to try to partner with, or at least consult with the Economic Development Committee, because I know, discussions that we've had over the years with them are our attraction to people that want to come in and look at historical areas is
What's his name?
uh,
On the economic development. Ignatowicz. He's our representative to the tourism district.
thank you. And the other question I have is, when it comes to preserving things like documents and everything, are you thinking there's some kind of special structure that would have to be built within the building to hold those? Like we have a vault downstairs.
Right, and you've got quite a bit of our stuff in the vault. I know
So we
that.
want it out of there.
I know you do. This is why I'm trying. I want to work together.
Well, it's also not packaged in a way that's good to have in the vault.
Right.
Yeah, open teddy bears are open to the air and everything are not a good thing.
I mean, we don't even know, I'm gonna be very honest. We don't even know if we have.
Understood.
The prior board didn't leave us with a lot of information about what we have.
That's
Nothing
good.
was
You'll get to
inventoried.
take a fresh look.
Right. We do understand we've got to store, a lot of it's paper. A lot of it's photos and calendars and postcards.
And I think you said you had a background in some of this, or you had from a previous,
Mhm.
situation.
I worked for the Webster Stevens Museum. I worked for the Antiquarian and Landmark Society.
so that's very good.
So what we have to do is figure out what we have, what is actually something that we want to keep to show, like photos versus calendars that were printed to sell. And we've got boxes of calendars that were
Okay.
printed to sell.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily need to be saved and or stored.
Right.
The things of value, and most of it's paper, from what I can tell. We have purchased some archival boxes. They're very expensive.
Yeah.
One of the members actually purchased them on her own so that we can store them in there. However, we have to also consider climate, heat,
Yes.
humidity. We have to consider the fact that there's no fire detection in the academy.
Right.
So if we're gonna put things that can't be replaced in the academy, we cannot run the risk that it could catch on fire.
Does the electricity work?
Yes.
It works.
Mhm.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's good
The
stuff.
electricity
It
works,
should probably be checked. It
The
hasn't
plumbing
been looked at
works.
in a while.
yeah,
That's
the
good.
plumbing works. I think the wiring has to be changed somewhat. I don't know if it would be to code now.
Okay.
But we did winterize the academy. And we
How did you do that?
they turned it off. They turned off the water and would put antifreeze.
Very good.
Yeah.
The so the America's 250th is coming up in 1 year.
I know.
So you have a tight timeline. And I would definitely suggest that you prioritize which things would be
Well, what
achievable in a year.
What do you guys as the town need for us to do first? Get estimates and present them to you?
That would be good.
That would be the first
Yeah.
thing.
Guys, what do you
Yes.
think?
Tell us what you need from us. I
You
want-
need
we wanna
that-
work
We
with
need
you
to
guys.
prioritize what you feel needs to be done and get estimates for those items so that we can put it forward in the capital.
And is it your preservation person or your structural engineer that you're waiting on a report from?
Structural engineer,
That's probably the most critical.
yeah.
And with regard to the repairs, how does the town feel about us doing some of the work? Do you have any issues with that? Like if painting
I-
needs to
I
be
think
done
we-
or
I
a
think
board
we
needs
have
to be
Identify
replaced?
what we're talking about.
Mhm.
And then we'll work
You
through
know,
it.
structural things, I think you need an insured contractor to do it, whatever.
Yeah.
Because there are gonna be liability exposures if we're gonna be having the public in there.
Mhm.
So I think you'd have to identify, well, we can help with it, you know, painting shouldn't be a problem.
Mhm.
Cleaning, obviously, God bless you for doing that already.
Mhm.
You know, there are things that I don't think there's liability exposure that you'd be taking on or risk from the general public that you can do.
Mhm.
I think if we're talking about, you know, structural repairs is the critical part.
I think you already, based upon what I've seen so far, you have already looked at things from the standpoint of what you could do versus what somebody else should do. And like you say, painting, that would probably be something that would be fine to do once we make sure that everything's safe for you to do it in there.
Right.
We'd probably want to talk with you about what are you painting and what are you using for it, you know, kind of thing. But I think those could be worked through.
Like the same question came up about the Tremco house.
That's a whole different animal.
I,
It's not historical.
Joan wanted volunteers to do the rehab. And the insurance company said. "Can't do that."
It's a problem. Being that it's on you're probably more familiar with this certainly than I am, but being that it's on the historical register, are there requirements of what we can do to that building or what we can't do to that building?
No, no,
Yeah.
it's-
Expert on that.
I don't think so. No, I'm not an expert, but no, I don't think so. We, the Tallinn Historical Society owns the courthouse. And it's on the National Register of Historic Places. And we restored the cupola. Not at any point did we discuss anything with the government, with the Department of Interior. We just did what we did. And the town owns the academy. So I don't see why we would have to consult the Department of Interior about doing things. I think if you're in a historic district, you have to follow what the Historic District Commission wants. But I think that's just the exterior. And on the inside of a house, if it's on the historic district, you can do whatever you want. Make the interior Chinese if you wanted to. But on the outside, it has to be conforming to the historic district rules. So I think there's only so much, I don't think the Interior Department is going to have any reach into what we do.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay,
What I do, and I'm sure you can sit down with Kathy and she can give you some heads up about timelines and everything. Start thinking about preparing a presentation to the capital non-reoccurring committee.
Capital non-recurring.
Yeah, CNR.
I chair that, so we can work together
And-
on that.
Thank you.
Oh, no, it comes with a job.
And, you know, what you might wanna do is you don't wanna take it all on at one time or one budget. What you might wanna look at is a 3 or 4 year plan. That will minimize the impact potential on taxes and other things. Just as a suggestion, I'm sure.
We want
Kathy
as
can
much
do.
advice as you guys can give us. We want to work with you.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Can I
But
make a
the-
suggestion?
Sorry,
Can I make a suggestion?
sure.
Is there someone in town, someone who is willing? It doesn't necessarily need to be a selectman, but is there someone in town that we can have direct contact with? Like they can be a liaison between the Historical Society and the town? So it'd be easier, we can annoy one person instead of annoy a whole lot of people? Would that be reasonable?
Are you saying that whatever you're thinking of doing, having it go through one person to vet it?
Well, I guess, but I mean, would it be easier for the town instead of us approaching a lot of people or different people or run our ideas through one person? I don't know.
What happens, well, I'll just say with capital improvement projects and purchases, we have a capital improvement committee that's made up of key people, you know, someone from the school, someone from the fire department, et cetera, et cetera. And what they do is we accept in people's suggestions along with whatever, you know, background work that they have to do. And there's certain things, certain criteria you have to meet in terms of the information you're providing. And we review all of them and we have a limited amount of capital improvement money. And ultimately what happens is the capital improvement committee looks at everything that's being suggested and comes up with what seems to be the most critical priority items based upon the limited amount of money that we have. And that committee then makes a recommendation to the Board of Finance. The Board of Finance, just like with the general government budget and just like with the school budget, they look at all of that. And then ultimately they make a recommendation to the town. Then we go to, we have a public hearing about that. Then we have a town meeting, the selectman chair, and then we have the referendum where it's decided. So it goes through these stages and capital improvement committee, it's a pretty good working group. These are pretty knowledgeable people. We have Chuck Funk is on that committee. He's kind of a member at large or a member from the community. And he is someone who does work with buildings and, you know, making changes to buildings. So he's got quite a bit of architectural kind of knowledge. So.
And it would probably behoove you to kind of move on this. We are just kind of coming out from the ARPA funding. So entities
Yeah, there's none.
really have, you know, have been taken care of with the ARPA money.
Yeah, there's no ARPA money left.
Yeah, and so, but I'm just saying that those entities that typically consume a lot of the capital improvements have been receiving funds as a result of ARPA. So I would kind of try to move on prioritizing this and getting it set up so that when we have that capital improvement.
Yeah, my suggestion, first of all, capital improvement committee hasn't met yet, but they're gonna start meeting in the next couple of weeks. And we have to have our recommendations for the Board of Finance prepared and ready to give to them. I believe it is February 28th in hard copy. So it's a fast moving time when we go through this budgeting. I think capital improvements the same night as we do the general government budget.
Yes.
So we have the same thing with the general government budget. We've had people submitting their budgets to us for the selectmen to start to look at. And what will happen is, by the way, is capital improvement committee, it will get presented to the Board of Finance, but first it goes through the Board of Selectmen. And then we make our recommendations. And then it goes off to the,
What you
Board
might
of
want
Finance.
to be a good resource for you is get a copy of the year's budget package that we have.
Mhm.
And it shows our 5-year plan in the back, also shows the CNR breakdown.
Okay.
capital non-recurring.
So you might, just use that as you can get an idea of the concept anyway. Because you'll see a number of projects in there that the costs are spread out over a number of years.
So I think another factor in how you go about this is, yes, you have the structural things, safety.
Yeah.
Come first, safety first. But you also, thinking about the 250th anniversary,
Mhm.
is go, what do you think? It's almost like doing two things at the same time. You're going, I want to make these changes, but I want to hold these kinds of events based upon what I can get done in that amount of time. So certain kinds of events you may be able to do if you've only made a few changes.
Right.
And then other kinds of events will grow out of whatever afterwards. But when we're talking about, then I think it's smart to put some kind of a deadline on yourself.
Mhm.
Figure out, kind of be thinking about what would you do during the 250th in that building. So you figure it's not gonna do anything in January in all likelihood.
Correct.
So you got probably going into maybe April, May. Maybe.
Mhm.
So, and luckily you have members of the 250th here too.
I belong to the Historical Society.
I just love the way you're working together. All right, so again, if you can start to do that, if you want to come in and, meet with me offline
Yeah,
or
I'd
whatever,
love to
that
do
is
that.
more than fine.
Thank you.
All right, now, have we covered that well enough? Have you gotten enough information that you were looking for?
Okay, so how many estimates, when you say you need several estimates, I'm assuming it's from carpenters and contractors, and I've got to get this stuff from them.
Typically for relatively big projects, we're looking for 3 estimates. But I don't know if that makes a lot of sense. It depends on how you parse this out. If you're just gonna do,
If you're getting grant money, you probably have to go out to bid. If you're using grant money for repair,
go out to bid, yeah.
you probably have to go out to bid.
However,
For these,
however,
Capital improvement is
yeah,
a grant, right?
No, but if they're applying for grants,
Yeah,
otherwise.
yeah.
So-
I think the best thing is to figure out your scope of work
yeah.
and phase it.
Mhm.
Yep.
And then break down your costs that way, you'll get a better idea.
And even if you can get rough cut costs, at least we have an
Some
idea.
to work with. Are there contractors or people that you would prefer?
We don't recommend
Okay. I
particular
just wanted to make sure.
contractors as a town.
Okay.
But we love it when you use people from town.
Right. But if there were certain people I should approach,
Well, I would think that your architect and your structural engineer can
right,
kind of be a reference
And
for you on
Preservation
people to stay
Connecticut
away
does.
from, or,
Yeah.
And they should also
Yeah.
be,
I know.
you also want people to be responsive, okay?
Yeah,
You
this
need,
day and age.
you need to get the information quickly. Okay, can we move on to the next thing? Are we at that
Thank you
place?
folks for your work.
Oh, thank you.
Thank
for
you ever so
listening.
much.
No, thank you for picking this
Giving
up.
us some hope. Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
No, nice job.
No,
Thank you.
Somebody, yeah.
Okay, and now we have our invasive plant
I'll run
working group,
downstairs.
the Ashford Invasive Plant Working Group.
All right,
Joe?
for the record, I'm Joe Hendrick, and I'm here representing the Ashford Invasive Plant Working Group.
Thank you.
At the community forum sponsored by Our Town, Our Future, there was a number of people who were listed, well, a lot of the natural environment was listed as a reason to be in Ashford by a lot of people. And it was one of the highest priorities for a number of townspeople that attended that particular forum. And in particular, I presented the idea of dealing with invasive plants, and there were a number of folks that endorsed that. The day after the meeting, I went to the biennial symposium that's sponsored by the Connecticut Invasive Plants Working Group. That's a group that consists of professionals in the area, foresters, for example. The DEEP is heavily represented, and they advise the state on what should be done to control the introduction of invasive plants. Invasive plants being non-native species that have a really high potential for spreading into forests, taking over farmland. So it's not just things that don't grow, that weren't growing here 200 years ago. It's things that will proliferate and compete with the natural environment and really stifle the plants that we would like to be here, that have been here, that are supporting the insects, that are supporting the birds, which are, and keeping things alive. So one of the reasons I went to the biennial symposium was there was a session specifically on leveraging community engagement. One of the speakers was a man named Bill Marshall, who is doing this for the town of South Windsor. I've gone to South Windsor. Mike Gantic from OTOF, who used to work at South Windsor, put me on to Bill, and I've gone, and they have a spot near their town hall. It's a corner of two busy roads. It's full of these plants, the 5 different species and more. And they've been working for 5 years with volunteer folks who come out to pulling sessions, and they yank up these plants, and they're gradually turning this into, they've removed a lot of the invasives, and they're bringing in native plants that are being donated to fill the area in. So what I'm proposing is that we set up something like that here. It's going to be staffed by volunteers. The goals of the initiative are to educate landowners and homeowners about these plants, particular plants in the area that are a real threat, what they look like, when it's a good time of year to do something about them, pull them up, poison them, and when it's not a good time, to inventory spots in town where there's stands that are ripe for attention. One thing I heard at the symposium over and over was, pick your battles. If it's a huge swath of 16-foot high bushes, you might have a hard time getting them all out. So you pick something that you can actually have an impact. And so that's the second goal we have, is to find those places in town. And the third one is to get volunteers busy working on spots in town. Ideally, on the trust properties, we have a lot of open space in trust properties, and I've hiked all of those, the paths in those. there are trail stewards, they are doing what they can, but they would be, I'm sure we could do a lot more with a core group of volunteers, and that's what the invasive plant working group is about. Getting volunteers that will be available to do the work. So the first thing we're gonna do is organize education, have some meetings. Had the first one on December 7th. It was exciting. I had, it was cold. It had snowed 2 days before. I still had a crowd that wanted to know about invasive plants. And we walked the little trail at Pompey Hollow, which has some wonderful examples of a half a dozen different plants that are problematic. The group included a resident of the senior housing, so it was her neighborhood. Pollinator Pathway was there, and the Pollinator Pathway people have already promised to help us with bringing in the native plants to replace. Let me see, I have to write down my attendance list here. Oh, there were folks that are stewards of trails on Joshua's Trust. Professional gardener who's very interested in native plant gardening and doing it for people in town. A young man who is eyeing this as a business opportunity, being someone who you could hire to take care of this, to mitigate plants on your land. So it's a wonderful collection of people from the first meeting. I wanted to bring it to you guys, the Board of City.
You have actually, you had a couple of other people who've actually contacted you.
Yes, independently. A young woman who is an Ashford student, who's currently at E.O. Smith, who's an environmental activist, got in touch with us through the Ashford, Connecticut Outdoors website, which is the trail website. She wanted to be involved in biodiversity, anything to increase biodiversity. And that really is what we're after here. Is one of the things the invasive plants do is one plant, you've seen Phragmites along the highway. It's just, it crowds out everything else. And that's what the problem is with these
What's
plants.
the one that's down south? Kudra, is that what they call it?
Kudzu.
Kudzu.
I can't believe traveling.
I grew up in Georgia.
Oh,
I know kudzu.
And kudzu, didn't it come from Africa?
It sounds
I think it
Asian
did.
to me. It sounds Japanese.
Ah.
I don't know where it came from.
But the student from E.O. Smith is also, she's proposed to be a recruiter for youth volunteers, which I think is pretty cool.
So I've got a much longer brief for you guys, and you can take that and enjoy it.
You've got some funding with Last Green
funding,
Valley.
that's why it's the funding. The Last Green Valley offers grants for this, for the necessary supplies. So they'll pay for advertising events. They'll pay for gloves and small hand tools to do the work. Food for the volunteers. I plan to starve the volunteers and buy more tools. And one of the issues, one of the particular things they ask for is what are you doing to recruit young people? So the fact that the young person came independently is just, a gift. I did notice that on the list for Thursday or the ARPA funds, you have a line item for the Pompey Hollow Trail.
Yes,
Is it the same trail I'm talking about?
I think so. It runs along the river.
It goes down to a
It goes
path.
behind the pickleball.
Goes
court.
behind the,
this is an addition to what's there.
Yeah.
It's an addition.
You know the little, I assume you saw the river overlook?
Yeah,
It's down there, well, it's this side of the river overlook. as I understand it, behind the pickleball courts and that. So it's like an addition onto the existing.
So it
trail.
would go through the part that was brush hogged on Veterans
Yes.
Day?
Uh,
That.
that part
down
is
kind of
right,
below,
you got the river here,
yeah,
you got the pickleball court here.
yeah.
Okay, it goes along behind there and it will hook up to the other trails that are where the senior housing is. And it's really to expand the trail system for our seniors, for anybody, but to make it so that hopefully it can be accessible for someone who's more
When
handicapped.
we originally built that back trail behind the senior housing, somewhere we have a plan of that trail extending up the hill towards St. Philip's and the Baptist church there.
Oh, really?
And also there's a large pond in, I think that whole acreage here is about 34-35 acres. There's like a 10-acre pond back there.
I think you
So-
can see it in that
So
photo.
so we had done
Oh,
draft trails that could be done. We'd love to have somebody get that done too.
yeah,
Well,
it runs
so
along behind here.
The part that's there that goes down to the platform over the river is, you know, I'm sorry, I'm using the word for slope, but the slope of it anyway.
Yeah.
Is, it would be a good, would be, as far as I know, would meet the standards for an ADA trail. And the surface needs a little more work.
Yeah.
Um,
We've had time, we had an Eagle Scout program that we worked with and complimented them with Public Works going in there. We've resurfaced that back of the trail a couple of times. I mean, it's been 30 years since we put that in. I know that river overlook, we ran into a problem with the Army Corps of Engineer because we wanted to have that actually as a little fishing area where whoever wanted to go, and we were too close to the river, so that's why it's backed off a little bit. Army Corps got involved in that, and
They
restricted us somewhat.
didn't want you in the,
Yeah, well, it was about the
Channel.
100-year floodplain.
Yeah.
Things like that.
So anyway, it was to expand the trails so that people could have more to walk
Yeah.
over there. And now that I find out that there's, a big pond behind it and all of that, it just opens up possibilities for the future.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
We can't build anything back there. So it's
So-
great to have, be able to have people be able to walk there. And they do walk the trails, especially seniors.
Is the state any help or resource in sort of doing an inventory town-wide where we have our biggest problems, or?
I don't know. I mean, I know that the state, the deep has service foresters, and they've come to my property and look, but their focus, their focus is on the timber industry, frankly.
For the most part, yeah.
For the most part. They are interested in the invasive plants insofar as they get in the way of growing more trees. But I'll look into that. I don't.
You also mentioned the deep recreational trails program. And you don't know whether it was funded past 2024. But that restoration of an ADA accessible trail at Pompey Hollow site near the senior center might be a good candidate for winning proposal. So I can continue to look for anything that's
Yeah,
trail grant oriented.
I mean, what I was able to dig out was that the program was so successful that the folks at Deep that were administering it were forecasting that they really needed to increase it in the next biennial budget, the next state budget.
Yeah.
Because they'd funded a whole bunch of folks that had planned projects, and they were anticipating they'd have to now fund the doing of the projects. So I think, we just have to pay, keep on that and see if it comes back up.
Also, Bill, it wouldn't be a bad idea for us to pull out the old records on whatever was laid out for a trails, potential trail
Yeah.
system
Yeah.
back there,
Well,
just
it
to
went-
keep
it-
that
it
in
even
mind.
Went up on the side of that hill.
Yeah.
Because there was an old religious Indian ceremonial. Remember they called it the chief's,
Oh, is it Pompey Seat?
Pompey
yeah,
Seat,
yeah, was up there.
I thought it was further toward the baker's property, or that is the
I think
baker's
it's on
property.
show.
That is, yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's really.
Yeah.
cool.
What is it called again?
It's
Pompey.
Chief
Pompey
Pompey
Seat.
Seat.
Apparently, we did some research on that area when we got
Yeah,
that property. And multi-tribes in the area used to meet there with sort of a peace grounds
Mm.
where they would, meet
That's
in
really
that
nice.
area, and it was near the river. And they had this, it was like a
A high point on the ledge,
high
right?
point, yeah, where
Yeah.
they used to go up and look, it was ceremonial.
I didn't know that there was a Chief Pompey, which is how the name
Yeah.
came.
I didn't know it either. I know, don't you? See?
You know who might know a little bit more about that is Kathy Clark. And she lives right across from the Tebow's. And
Yeah.
Her property probably
yeah, I know
touches
that.
all of those, yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, no, that was exciting there. One of
So,
those things we wanted to do, but you end up, other things come up that take precedent, but.
so Joe, in terms of what you're looking for from the, Board of Selectmen. you have, you have issues on your last page, kind of
Yes.
brief. Issues for your consideration and, invasive plant sites on a town-owned land is one of them. You probably want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
yes.
do.
I might have seen
So
It mentions it.
there's a lot of verbiage here, but if you go to the last page, it's kind of the things that I think this group might need to consider. So one is that there are sites on town-owned land. We've just been talking about one of them. And we used it as an education site, but it's another level of involvement if we start to inventory, if we start to identify those sites, and if there's volunteers working on town land. I know in South Windsor, when I went there, they asked me to sign a waiver before they handed me a pair of clippers.
Right.
So that's something that, we should probably also do.
And then you talk about public works involvement.
Yes, the public works, another thing, any of these efforts, the volunteers can cut, uproot, pile up. If the town crew could be, if the pile could be carried off by the crew who has dump trucks, et cetera, that would be very helpful. It would kind of leverage the effort in a big way.
And I will tell you that our public works crew, particularly Casey McHugh, our public works director, is very familiar with invasive plant species. I think a lot of times with our crew, they're going a mile a minute, so to speak, trying to take care of things. And so your last thing here about the management of the roadside sites. I think that what you've asked for is you'd like to identify sites that will be managed by the group you described and left alone by town crew during an early part of your initiative. So we would have to have those identified and then make sure that our crew understood that don't cut there. What we don't want to have happen is we want to make sure that when they're cutting, they're doing it for a number of reasons, but one of them is for sight clearance when you're driving, okay, to be able to see what you need to see. So what I thought was really terrific is you're not asking them to go in and pull.
No, that's.
You're just asking them to work with you.
Handwork is, it's just not feasible to be,
Mhm.
clearing roads, running
Right.
a public works department and pulling things by hand. That's why these volunteer organizations, and there were 3 or 4 of them that presented, back in October at this meeting. And you really have to have the Boy Scouts and the high school students and the retirees.
Those who could still bend over to pull things.
And, yeah, so, but there are certain of these plants that, mowing them just stimulates growth. And so you end up with a bigger problem than you started with.
Right.
And, so the, I bicycle a lot, you know, I bought an e-bike. And there's a site in Eastford where they came by in July 2 years ago and they sprayed. So one of the big problem ones is Japanese knotweed.
We had some in our lawn out here and
Yeah.
pollinators group pulled it.
Yeah.
But that's what you see behind the pickleball court. All of that is Japanese.
Yeah,
knotweed.
so one of the sites to, you know, that would be good to start with, because it's at this point possibly an approachable size, is right next to the garage or the
Public Works.
no, not Public Works, but the
Transfer station.
no, I'm sorry. It's right across the street
The
and
post
it's
office.
the farmer's market.
Oh, yes.
The farmer's market, there's the two, the
Buildings.
old post office, and then
Yeah.
there's that garage thing.
House.
So basically, on the edge of the lot there, that's by the garage, going down to the river, you know, so the top of the bank, and then going towards the river, there's a stand of knotweed. It was cut. It was one of the things that was
Should not have been.
was cut. It's okay because it was done for this year, but if we could attack that with the volunteers next spring, then yeah, that's a site that is possibly could be remediated without cutting. Cutting doesn't yet. It's now it's going to come back strong, but.
And knotweed, if you get it on your tires, if you take a vehicle and you get it on your tires, that's one of the ways. to spread
Knotweed,
around.
a 1-inch piece of knotweed can start a new plant. So you mow it, if you leave it there, it comes back up.
Lots of things.
It spreads mostly by the roots. So when you mow it down, it just comes out here. So the stand that's over there that I was describing, near the, why can't I say farmer's market site?
Old post office.
The old post office. They mowed it, but it's actually working its way down the slope towards the river.
And you don't want
And
to
the
get to
stuff-
the river.
The stuff down near the river is still full size.
Mhm.
So you spray that in July, it looks like look, everything's turned brown. We've succeeded. The stand I'm talking about in Eastford, I went by it this year, and it's 16 feet tall and just as big as it was. But if you hit it at the right time, if you keep it small during the summer, you can poison it in the winter. If you hit it with an herbicide at a point where it's sending energy to the roots, which is October, you can eliminate it.
When you do attack these places and like some of the things you're talking about, you will have a lot of brush and debris and cuttings and everything. You can't compost it. So how do you get rid of it?
You can burn it. You can bag it and basically solarize it, put it in a black bag and wait for it to, cook it a bit. It's not my favorite thing, but we did there's another one of these, there's a grass type thing, garlic mustard, so a small plant. Pull it up before it goes to seed, and we bagged it all and put it in the transfer station, in the trash.
I mean, that would be the thing about using the public works, is if they can pick it up in the dump truck. We do have a burn pile there.
Okay, as long as there's no poison ivy in that.
Yeah,
pile.
exactly. Poison ivy would be a problem. And our burn
I'm not gonna
pile,
have
just so
my
you know, our burn
volunteers.
pile is inspected before it's burned. In fact, they just inspected it. It's inspected by the state whenever we go to burn it. And also, just a reminder for anybody who doesn't know, it is illegal for people to bring in these plants.
Mm.
Okay, and that includes companies that provide soil and whatever.
Mm.
So it's one thing I have talked to Casey about in terms of where are we getting our soil from? And soil and rocks, you know, are there any issues with this? Because it's literally illegal. There's legislation that says you can't do that.
But some of those things that we encounter, they're still being sold by garden centers because they are decorative, like the winged euonymus.
The what?
Winged euonymus, burning bush.
Burning bush.
Yeah,
Oh, burning bush,
And
definitely.
people love it. It's, you know, beautiful
Bittersweet,
red thing in the
yeah.
fall, but if you look around in the woods,
Yeah.
it migrates.
But
Yes, it
with-
certainly
with
does. We took it
spirit,
out of our
yeah.
property.
wisteria, honeysuckle, bittersweet. The,
Bittersweet, yes. Wisteria?
Autumn olive.
Autumn olive. It's interesting, the committee that, so the legislator, yeah, there is a statute. And the state invasive plant working group gives recommendations to the legislature. And they don't always take all of them, but, and they're the nurseries are, you know, have things that are staples for them and they try to hold on to them. The Yukon has an active program trying to identify sterile versions of all of these. So it's, you know, people are, it's politics, but it's not a bad kind of politics. It's, you know, people trying to,
Remember all the buildings.
So let me
that were
ask-
trying
surrounded
to
by
learn how to
euonymus.
do the thing right.
So let me ask the selectmen,
Yes.
based upon what has been described here in terms of issues for our consideration on page 3. Is there anything here that we see that would be onerous in terms of any support that we would be providing?
No,
I do.
my personal feeling is I appreciate everything Joe's done on this and I'm encouraged by the fact you've got some volunteers, perhaps there are new resources to us that is an ongoing challenge for the town to have more, you know, people get burned out, we rely on people to do the same or different things over and over to get new blood in and to get people who are excited about this sort of thing. I think it's identifying it. I like the idea of maybe if you can, for lack of a better term, an experimental area or an area if it's between the old post office and the garage over there, if we can use an example of what we're trying to get accomplished and use that as an educational tool for the general public. I think that would be ideal. I don't see, you know, we have a relatively small public works with an awful lot of mileage of roads to maintain summer and winter, but I don't see a problem if you do come up with something and we're comfortable with how we're gonna dispose of it, them assisting in something like that. We've done that before, like I
Trash
mentioned the
pickup.
Eagle Scout on the trail system in the back. DPW had a couple of pieces of equipment, we left them 2 days of work or something, a couple of our guys, and it worked out perfectly, you know.
Yeah.
So
And
Well,
another-
I mean, I have all kinds of, you know, I don't wanna waste any of the town crew's time. I live on a dirt road. They spend a lot of time maintaining my road. The second guy I met when I bought my house was Rob from the town crew.
Swanwick,
It is Swanwick.
Yeah.
I was like, Swanwick, right? Yeah, he stopped right, you know, I talk to him all the time.
So there's that area, and there's also, remember, we're doing that new trail. that's right near there as well.
Behind the pickleball. court.
Yeah, yeah,
Behind the pickleball courts.
Yeah.
And since you've already identified that was part of your walkabout.
yeah.
That's also another area that might be good, ripe for doing this.
I mean, I would envision it, if you can identify this stuff visually. You know, perhaps it would behoove to put an article in the Citizen that your group or a group is gonna show people what these things look like. And actually give a little tour.
Right, so
And
that,
then say, hey, we're
that
gonna do a
was,
follow-up, this is how we're gonna address
Yeah.
it. We're gonna do another tour in another couple of months or whatever.
We also have on our Ashford website, we can put color pictures out there as part of educating the public about these are what these plants look like. We can find a place for that.
you could just put the link to the Ashford Invasive Plants
Oh,
website.
Even better, sorry.
That's already
We like
up.
doing the links, but
Yeah,
I'm
I'm learning all
using,
kinds of things.
using
I
our
made a
website as
website.
part of your,
All right.
using our website as part of your communication plan.
Yes, it is. It's actually, well, yeah, you have the link here somewhere in the paper.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, I'm, all of this is what I was hoping that we could talk about. And the plan is to have regular events. We'll have something in Knowlton at some point. And yeah, the education starts the thing. The more eyes we have looking for these things.
Do
the
we have any
better off we're
outgrowths
gonna
around
be.
the Ashford Academy? And stuff?
There's Barberry. I think, right, Barberry.
Oh, I hadn't been around. I did,
Right.
I did join them.
Oh, the Ashford
Historical
Academy, the
Society.
cemetery, they have huge poison ivy. Yeah. like
Poison
the
ivy
bushes.
is a native plant
But
and
don't
it
burn it.
provides a
Don't
high
burn it.
protein berry for the
That's true.
birds.
Understood.
So we wouldn't wanna, and it's right next to your patio. If it's where you're walking, that's
Yeah.
one thing, but,
Okay, so it sounds like this
And
is something
grape
we
is
can
also a
support.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I would think so.
Joe,
So,
nice
okay.
job bringing this to us.
well, yeah,
Yep.
I'm glad to, have
Okay,
you guys as interested as everybody else. And I'll be sure to let you know when you come pull things up.
I'll watch. I just need to be able to identify the plants.
Poison ivy.
Yeah, exactly.
Not my friend.
No.
Catherine, I will make a motion to move back to our regular agenda.
Sounds
Second.
good. Thank you all.
Thank you for
coming.
your time. I
We'll see you
appreciate
guys
it.
on
I'm gonna
Thursday.
get in contact with you so you can help
You
me.
bet.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, going back to our agenda, actually, do we still have Lynn on here? So I'm going to ask for, I gotta look at the agenda again.
So moved.
Yep, we're moving her up as well.
After reevaluation, item C.
And Lynn, thank you for hanging in there.
No problem, I'm here.
Okay, so the assessor assistant job description, have we provided them with a copy of that? These guys?
I gave Christine a copy for everybody, all the board members.
You got it, you got some highlighted items on it? Which
Yep,
looks like
we got
this?
it, we got it.
Okay,
Are we doing job description or reval first?
we'll do reval first, okay? Can we have a motion to go to,
So moved.
Second.
okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay, that's Roger. And, okay, we are,
Very good.
motion passes. So, summary version, Ashford reval.
Do you want me to summarize?
Floor is yours.
Yeah, summarize
Yes,
first.
yes, I will. So we're scheduled for a 2025 revaluation. And what I provided you, first I'll just say that I just did a little suggested timeline to see if we can get this done to get our reval going by February. So I did a calendar for the last half of December, January and February for us to refer to after I just say a few things. So you have a copy of the calendar and the ordinance that I will refer to. The RFP that I did for the revaluation was sent to the town attorney last Wednesday. Right, Catherine?
No, it was not, but that's okay. We'll get through that.
Okay, so based on my research, there are 3 Connecticut certified revaluation companies that have experience using our camera software, which is my appraisal software. And to expedite the process here to get us going along, I would like to send the RFP by invitation to the 3 vendors that I know are experienced in doing a revaluation on a software. And I'm requesting that the Board of Selectmen, that they would consider approving that per the ordinance that I gave you, which is regarding contracts for purchases and sales. And I did highlight.
Lynn, that's an existing ordinance, correct?
Correct. I gave you a copy of that.
Well, I certainly have no problem with that. Now, do we also have to go out to any other bidding for that, or does that cover us?
That covers us.
I'll move that the Board of Selectmen authorize the town assessor to go out to the 3 firms that
She's identified.
she's identified for the upcoming proposed reevaluation for the town.
I will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That was quick.
Thank you.
And thank you for coming up with that, because I know you did quite a bit of research on this. Okay.
Yes.
and-
But can I just say with the calendar for Catherine, for getting, we needed the town attorney to at least,
Take a look.
Take a look and just make sure it's the 24 page RFP. And,
I wasn't sure if you felt it was in final form for them, because I don't want to have them do it twice.
right.
So-
If I find anything, it's just, I would just tell the attorney if I made a couple, word changes, but, the thing is that if you look at the calendar, are these reasonable, to the Board of Selectmen that, if we get it out within the next week, we need to give the vendors a chance to potentially ask me any questions about the RFP and then get the bid in. And so I suggested a date of the 13th, assuming we can get the attorney to say, yes, go ahead with the RFP that I have. And then if that works, if we have the 13th, then I need to have time to review the bids and potentially ask the vendors questions, if anything, if I come up with any questions. And again, if the 13th works out, then we could potentially, I could make a suggestion for a contract for the Board of Selectmen meeting, which would be on the 21st of January. This is all assuming we can get this out, in the very near future, to give the vendors a chance to, create the bid and get it in.
Understood. Now, just speak to the ramifications of not meeting the reval date of February.
So first of all, we're a small town, so I'm comfortable that, we could have started December, January. I prefer to get my grand list done before I get deep into working on revaluation with the reval company. So my goal would be to have it ready to start in February, end of February at the latest. The other thing I want to mention here is in the ordinance that I gave you a copy of. I prefer to go out to bid, but if for some reason we see that the timeline, we may not be able to meet this timeline, there is the possibility of the Board of Selectmen waiving the requirement to go out for bid. And we could talk about that at a later date. I guess the question is, do you think we can work with these dates that I suggested on the calendar?
Let me ask you this. Is there precedent for us waiving a requirement to go out to bid?
Yes.
How is that?
Actually, the last
By
revaluation,
ordinance, You can do that.
And it's allowable by ordinance. Correct?
I underlined, I highlighted that section at the bottom of the ordinance.
For some reason, I don't have that piece.
This requirements
It's
of court may be waived
It's
by the Board of
highlighted in
Selectmen.
yellow.
That's right, I know, I read it.
I think that covers it.
So with that, we wouldn't have to go out to bid, is that correct?
Correct. And
Correct.
the
I don't
Ashford,
have that, I don't have that piece of paper,
Page 56,
for
yeah.
whatever reason.
Here, section
Thanks.
5.
Thanks. Section five.
Ashford,
The
did do.
requirements of this ordinance may be waived by the Board of Selectmen whenever an emergency exists by extraordinary,
Or by reason.
whatever. So, would
The
we,
town did actually waive for the last revaluation because the assessment office converted to new software in 2020. And for the 2021 revaluation, we were part of, Ashford was part of the regional revaluation contract, but that vendor could not successfully do the reval on our software. So there was a waiver at that time for the bid
Okay.
process.
so the fact is, even inviting them to bid, we have actually targeted particular potential bidders and reached out to them. I would expect that they would be able to come back fairly quickly to us. So the amount of time that we've given for going out to bid is not necessarily terrible here. The only thing is I see in section 5, as much as I want to say, hey, we can waive that, it says, whenever an emergency exists by reason of extraordinary circumstances or contingencies that could not be reasonably be foreseen and guarded against. So I don't think we can waive it based on that. I don't want to be a stickler. Let me ask my fellow selectmen.
When does the
I
reval have
would
to be
ask-
done?
I would ask council, being that we're under somewhat of a time restraint here.
Right,
I would ask council if they feel under the language in that ordinance,
okay.
we can waive.
I will say again, though, I mean, my preference would be to go out to bid. And it's just talking to the town attorney with the RFP that I completed, can we get the okay to invite those 3 vendors to bid in a, do this
All
in a
right,
timely
and the way,
fashion.
and the way your RFP is written, it would be appropriate for those 3 bidders, right? You've got
Yes.
everything in it you feel you need to have in it.
Yes.
All right.
I mean, my goal would be to get it out by the end of the week. And because of the
Out to bid?
holidays, I'm
No,
sorry, what's that, Kath?
The lawyer.
Out to the lawyer. Yeah,
The
we'll
lawyer.
go out to the lawyer. It would go out either tonight or tomorrow. Okay, and then it would be, how quickly can they go through it? I don't know which attorney this would be.
Duncan,
Is it
start
Duncan?
with Duncan, he can talk
I
about it.
would think, and if Duncan can't handle it, he'll refer
Farm
it
it.
off.
And I'll just tell them it needs to be done quickly, very quickly.
But I can also say, I mean, there's leeway in the January timeframe. I mean, possibly the Board of Selectmen might need to do a special meeting on another day if it gets,
We can do that.
pushed
okay.
further back in January.
We can do that. Once we have, we need to have the RFP vetted, right?
Yes.
And then we would have a meeting that says, send it out. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. And then I do actually want the attorney to confirm. Can we send it via email or does it have to be,
Okay, well, send that little requirement to me.
Yes,
What
I will do that.
What if the selectmen tonight were to say that should this pass muster by the attorney, that we'd be authorized to send it out?
I'm comfortable with that.
So moved.
Okay, so we don't have to have a special meeting or something to get that sent out.
Okay.
Okay, that's a good thing.
So,
All right. And again, it has to be vetted by the town council,
yes,
which if they needed a little bit more time, then it wouldn't eat into too much because we aren't waiting for a board of selectmen meeting. Okay, so one is vetted by council. Okay, and then sent, and the other thing is asking council about the 3 targeted, if you will, vendors.
yeah, I can send you an email, Catherine, tomorrow, and we can touch base in the afternoon because,
Now, send me the email as quickly as you can, so I can attach it or
okay,
glean from it what I want to send to the attorney,
okay, perfect.
okay?
Yes, thank you.
So,
I have a question.
sure.
Where are we with funding for the reval? Have we got funding in place?
So, I believe, and I'm sorry, I didn't check that, but I believe, Catherine, when we worked on the, capital, part of the
Plan
budget
for-
last year, I think we're now funded at 30,000. And so this year there would be there's been 15,000 per year. So I think we're at 30,000. We would put another 15,000. We really need to get to the next budget season to get that fourth 15,000, which would put us at the 60,000, because I believe we're going to be in the 60 to $70,000 range for the cost of the revaluation.
And is that generally, that's typical? It's just a matter of we only have 2 years of funding stored up so far?
Oh, okay. Well, just a reminder, the state 2 years ago realigned all of the Connecticut towns for revaluation so that they could, by area, give the vendors an opportunity to do revals in more of the same
Staggered.
locations.
Ah,
And Ashford was pushed up a year. So we were supposed to be a 2026 reval, but we are one of 20 something towns, I believe, that our schedule changed. So we're 1 year early. If we were the 26, we would have had the, close to the full amount by the time we started, but we're a year early.
Could that be part of our rationale if we're asked why we consider this an emergency and want to waive going through the normal bid process? That we're under
duress, financially.
under duress with tighter time restrictions?
Well, I mean, one thing I could say to that is that I feel bidding would, I'm hoping, give us some competitive bids versus, just waiving and getting one vendor to do the reval.
So
That's
bottom line, you'd rather do the competitive bids. And
yes.
we need to get this out the door as quickly as possible to get those bids.
Yes.
And part of getting the RFP at least out the door would be if we had a motion tonight authorizing us to do that based upon the town council's approval.
So moved.
Second.
Give me a second while I try to document a piece of that at least. That's the RFP
Pleasure.
approved by council. So in a sense, you got that, I don't want to call it a pre-approval, but that one's all lined up based upon the approval by council. So you don't have to have that special meeting. That's one. And we still would be going with a competitive bid process through the RFP. And based upon that, we would be targeting to make these dates. Correct?
Yes. And if we're off a little bit, I was aggressive. There's wiggle room.
The other thing is that this is one of the items that would come up for, and let me ask you how this would work. The monies that are needed, bottom line, we need $30,000 that we don't have saved yet. We would have.
We have
Sorry to
to-
interrupt, Catherine. I mean, the way the payment process works for the reval,
Good.
there will be payments, there's always a schedule in the contract of, they do so much work, they send me what they've done in an invoice, I approve it or not. And we make payments over the course of a year roughly.
When do the
So,
payments start?
well, they would start this spring.
In the spring. So what we would need is 15,000 because we would be, let's put it this way, Capital Improvement Committee would be, in all likelihood, bringing forth 15,000 for the next fiscal year, which is not unusual. That's what we've had each year. But because we're doing this a year early, having to do it a year early, we need the other 15,000 right away. Or they're saying 30,000 for the next fiscal year.
Right, because we have 30,000
30.
from the last two.
So it would be 30,000 for the next fiscal year instead of 15. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, but you said, Lynn, you're concerned that 60 is not gonna be enough?
I'm thinking, based on all the research I've done, that it may be, it's probably going to be a little higher.
Okay, so what's going to happen is we will have, by going out to bid and getting those bids back, we will have the information about what it's going to cost, truly
Right.
cost, by January 20th or so. Correct?
Right.
Even if it was early February, we would still have time to get it through the Capital Improvement Committee and through the Board of Selectmen after that, in terms of what the capital improvement plan is for the next fiscal year. We have to present that plan for the next fiscal year to the Board of Finance, give them hard copies, February 28th, I think it is. So we would have time to, if we needed to make an adjustment in that capital improvement plan to accommodate whatever the cost is, we could do that. Am I making any sense to you?
Yeah. Yes.
All right. All right, we had a motion on the floor. Did we actually vote on it?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Thank you. And that is for and since that pre-approval, if you will. RFP approved by council, therefore it's approved by the Board of Selectmen. Okay, and as far as your schedule, we'd be marching to the schedule as best we can. So
Yes.
thank you for laying it out the way you did, so we can understand where you need to get to by when.
You're welcome.
Is there anything else with this that is of concern?
No, I will email you in the morning, Catherine, and the things that we don't really need to talk about right now. One example is, with the attorney, can we still open them via Zoom instead of having an in-person meeting when the bids come in? I'm
Oh,
assuming
that was the other question. Can we do the opening of the bids via Zoom?
But I'll email you that all in the morning.
I'll be asking the town
Yeah, as
council.
long as council's.
I doubt that that's going to be an issue unless for some reason one of those companies doesn't use Zoom and we can make it an in-person meeting for, a hybrid meeting if we had to.
I assume would be okay, but I figured we.
Yeah, that's a good question. All right, so send me that
You
one.
could do it combined,
Yes.
Right, hybrid.
person door.
Yeah. Okay, anything more on this?
I am all set unless anybody had any questions.
Can we move on to, you all have, let me just see on the agenda, double check myself. We have the, yes, assessor assistant job description. I'm not going to read that over the meeting, but have you taken a look at it? It lines up with
I
what
have
we
no
had.
problem with it.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve it?
Can I ask what the highlighted areas are on mine, or were those
Oh.
added somebody, or?
Okay, yes, that is just being clear that at this point, I'm just looking for a temporary assistance to get me through the grand list and then potentially help me with getting set up for the revaluation. Now, there's money in my budget, and I want to continue to have money in my budget going forward for some part-time help each year. But I still haven't fully defined what that looks like going forward. So that's to be determined. But at this point, I'm considering this a temporary position because I need to better define what is needed going forward. And
Sounds fine to me.
I'm
They're
with
good with it.
I will make a motion to approve the
job
job
description.
opening description as submitted for publication.
And I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Nice job.
Thanks, Lynn. Thanks for.
thank you. Can I just ask,
Thanks,
can that be on the website as soon as possible? Because I also
Yes,
want to.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
That's my
Okay, thank
job.
you. Thank you.
Okay, moving merrily along, and thank you, gentlemen, for everybody here for your patience. All right, we've bounced around a little, going to, I guess, back up to old business, finalize town building use fee schedule. I'd like to waive that again.
All right.
Update on Cadle Rock EPA lien status. I think we got some information on, what's going on with that. Is there anything else we wanted to say, Chris, on that one? Okay. New business. I thought we were gonna have somebody here tonight for the Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Commission position. I believe he's still putting together a little write-up for you. So going down through these, to my knowledge, we don't have any candidates for any of these positions at this point in time.
Now, I noticed that the planning and zoning isn't on here, and I know there's been a resignation. I don't know when it's effective.
Not
So
till
are we gonna
Jan-
assume they're gonna move up an alternate? And
They
then
have
we'll
to.
have to appoint an alternate?
They have to,
They have, to.
they have to.
Okay,
I read
They
some-
appoint on their
I think
own?
His resignation's effective January 1st.
okay.
I
wasn't sure.
couldn't hear that.
Hmm?
So they appoint on their own or they come to us for the appointment?
No, they appoint an
They
alternate.
move
They're
an
an alternate.
alternate up. And then I think then we
You appoint an alternate.
appoint an alternate.
Another alternate.
That's if an alternate agrees to be moved up. I don't know what happens if one of their alternates, neither one of their alternates want.
Okay, it's getting too late to get that complicated.
Thank you.
Okay, and move, so,
Joe was just sitting here, was kind of like, that conservation committee. So if somebody could reach out to Steve to see, or Joe, to see if he's interested in a position.
certainly, apparently he's talking with the Conservation Commission because that was in his write-up.
Yeah.
And he said what they'd be doing would be under the auspices of the Conservation Commission.
Mhm.
I can't remember if his wife is on that commission. I don't think she is. She's on Inland Wetlands, I think. Okay, moving down to tax refunds.
I have two.
Two.
So move stating the statute.
Second.
Do you care who you're for? No.
No,
It's been
Just
a
give
long
us,
night.
do me a favor, just give us two amounts while we're doing that. And
781, 227.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Agenda items for upcoming Board of Selectmen meetings. We'll work that out. Would anybody like to make a motion to adjourn?
9:07.
Seconded.
Aye.
Aye. I'm going to turn off our meeting now. Thank you.
Don't forget Thursday.